All right, so at this point in this sort of series of videos, I've talked about this sort of spiritual problem, or at least the spiritual dimensions of the problems that we encounter in the world. And I've suggested that the the kind of the way to understand the problem is that our culture is not providing us the tools, the language, the resources that we need in order to be fed in the way that we need to be fed, spiritually, emotionally, psychically. Um, and that the basic elements of that language, the basic units, I guess, of the things that we sort of need to know about and engage with correctly, those basic things are the archetypes. So in this video, I want to say something about the relationship between the archetypes and what we call spirituality, and how a good understanding of the archetypes can help us kind of deepen and expand our spiritual practices, whatever they may be. So imagine it like this, and this is just a completely made up example. I'm not saying that this is exactly how it works, but just think of it like this. You realize that there's suffering in the world and that there's problems, and so you just try to fix the world, right? Whatever you think the problem is, you spend some time trying to fix it. Maybe you get involved politically. Maybe you do some advocacy work. Maybe the problem with the world is just that you're in the wrong job and you need to quit your job and get a different job or something, right? There's all sorts of sort of obvious ways in which we see that there's things that are wrong that maybe we hopefully have some control over and we can fix. So the first thing that we do about suffering is we kind of identify a target that we sort of see as the near or proximate cause, and we try to fix it. We try to change the world. We try to fix the world in some larger or smaller way. So that's sort of phase one, let's say. Chapter one. Chapter two is sort of realizing that no matter what kind of success or failure we have with those outside projects, we also need to kind of take it to that deeper level of realizing that there's a spiritual dimension, a spiritual foundation to why people do what they do, why people make the mistakes they do, why people have the addictions and the habits and why people are such jerks. Well, the reason why people are such jerks is they're not being fed, right? They're not getting that. They're not meeting spiritual needs. What are those spiritual needs, and how do we feed them? Well, what most people do, well, a lot of people do, is they join the proud ranks of spiritual seekers, right? They start buying some books, they maybe join some online chat groups, and eventually they find a path. They find maybe Buddhist meditation, maybe yoga, maybe I don't know, maybe they have a good experience with Reiki, and then they go on to learn how to do Reiki themselves and get certified, or sound healing. There's, one of the wonderful things about this era in which we live is that there are so many spiritual practices out there, and you can learn about almost all of them really easily. And if you have some financial means, you can go on retreat and you can kind of have a deep spiritual experience of some variety, right? Of some distinctive flavor. So that's phase two. Not that phase one goes away or that you should give up on phase one. No, you still have to live your life and you still have to make changes in the world, but this sort of deepens and complexifies and complements our efforts in the sort of external world, so to speak. And then what happens? Well, usually, well, not usually, but a lot of the times, what happens is that, especially after that initial rush of success. So this is what happens. People find a spiritual, maybe you cycle through a couple different practices that maybe don't work for you, but maybe you find a spiritual practice that, this is it. And you go on retreat and you have a profound and meaningful experience on retreat. The example that I like to use is actually an ayahuasca retreat, because this is so vivid that when people do, especially their first ayahuasca retreat, It's so it's life changing. It will literally change your life. It's such a profound experience. You do so much kind of inner work with your your childhood and trauma and addiction, but you also have these incredible kind of transcendent experiences of the infinite, right? The utter, fathomless endlessness of infinite time and space. Like you see it and you feel it, and you're like, oh, that's what that's like. It's incredible, right? And so often what happens in the immediate wake of such an experience, ayahuasca or meditation or whatever kind of experience it is for you, you feel like, oh, this is it. This practice is my practice. For the rest of my life, I am just going to do lots of long Zen Buddhist meditation retreats. Or for the rest of my life, I'm going to do ayahuasca once a year or twice a year or whatever, and that will be my spiritual food. Or whatever it is. After that success, you think, A, this is it for me. This is all and everything that I ever needed, which it isn't. And moreover, this is all and everything that everybody else needs to know about right now, which they don't, of course. The reason this experience is so profound and so meaningful and so important is because you're getting like it's like you've been so hungry for so long, and then all of a sudden you get all of this nourishment, right? And usually if it's a good retreat, you get a number of different kinds of spiritual experiences, a number of different kinds of spiritual nourishment. Not just the infinite time and space thing, but also good old-fashioned community, right? And camaraderie and the opportunity to be honest and vulnerable with what you're going through. And just to get a break from your phone and get a break from social media and a break from the news, and as soon as that happens, you have all of these channels sort of open up. And so it's easy to see how it's easy to imagine that you would think, well, it's so much and it's so rich and it's so what I needed that this is it. But again, of course it's not, right? No matter how good a meal you have, no matter how rich and delicious and how many courses and what good wine and dessert, you're still going to have to eat again tomorrow, right? You're going to need more nutrients, right? Because you're going to digest what's happened. And of course, the same thing is true with the spiritual journey. So any given spiritual tradition, any given practice, any given teaching has some things that it gets right and some things that it's maybe not so strong on, has certain channels through which people can and do experience the sacred. And then the institution or the kind of economic structure of that, whatever that tradition is, sort of orients itself around what it gets right. And what it doesn't get right or doesn't do well, it just sort of ignores or leaves behind. So every tradition, right? Every Buddhist tradition or Christian tradition or neo-pagan tradition, or every single tradition has some things that it gets right, and that is valuable, and at some point needs to be sort of folded in to our wisdom, right, and our practice in our lives. The archetypes, in and of themselves, are not a spiritual practice, and they are not a religion. The system of the archetypes, especially as I've sort of packaged it, I guess, in the Empyrean deck, in the cards, is you have a set of archetypes which is sort of like a checklist, I guess, a vocabulary, a basic glossary of all the kinds of experiences that are out there, give or take, and all the ones that we need to experience. And in theory, you could take this sort of template and take, I don't know, Soto Zen Buddhism as practiced at this one retreat place in upstate New York, right? You could go there and participate and listen to what they say and watch what they do, and you can say, oh yeah, this is how people are experiencing the sacred here. Check, 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 check. They've got these 17 or 18 ways in which people validly and usefully experience these archetypes and get that spiritual energy. but you know, they're not going to get everything, and they're not going to get everything right. And even some things that they do get right, there might still be another place across the street where maybe they do it a little bit better, you know, or that works for more people. Who knows? So my hope, I guess, for the model of the archetypes that I teach and that I talk about is that it will help you if you're already at phase 3, right? So phase 1, I'm changing the world by physically changing it and doing things in the world. Phase 2, I'm invested in a spiritual practice, and I'm trying to I'm seeking my way. Phase 3, I found my way, and I'm a new convert, and I'm you know, so enthusiastic, and I want to tell all my friends and everybody I've ever met about this practice. Phase 4, I've realized that this practice, as powerful and wonderful as it is not the be all and end all, and that there's still maybe other boxes I need to check. There's still maybe other gates that I need to cross through, other thresholds I need to pass over, other needs that I didn't even know I had because I was so blinded by those more urgent needs. Well, now I've realized I still have these other needs too that I haven't even started to think about how to feed it, right? So phase 4, well, I have the spiritual practice. I'm not going to stop doing the spiritual practice. This spiritual practice is important to me and will always be a new kind of anchor and a new part of my life. But time to complexify. Time to figure out, well, what are my next steps? What's the next thing for me to learn? What's the next thing for me to do? And my hope is that this kind of collection, this set of cards, and using the cards in the various ways in which I you know, try to teach people to use them, that this can help you sort of discern, okay, what's phase 5 of my life, of my spiritual journey? What's next? What's the next thing I have to do? Is it just kind of keep on slogging? Is it just a kind of integration and recollection time right now? Or am I at a place where I'm ready to jump into the next big thing, right? The next really even more new and even more exciting kind of experience or way of being human or way of experiencing the divine. Because you know, it just goes on and on. You know, it's so wonderful and so strange, and it's always surprising. It just goes on and on and on. It gets deeper and deeper and deeper, you know, until finally the only adventure you have left is to die, right? And to cross that incredible mysterious threshold. But we got plenty of time till then. I know no one's in a hurry. What is my next step? What are the next things that I want to do before I hit that final mile marker, right? What's next? If you're interested in learning the language of the archetypes and using that language to help discern where you are in your spiritual journey and where you may want to go next, stay tuned to all the other videos that I'm going to be posting, because all of the other videos that I'm going to be posting are just that. No more, no less. So if you're interested, stay tuned. Thanks for listening.